Okay, deep breaths, America. Deep breaths. We are now 19 days away from the day that we begin counting the votes, November 3rd. The country is gripped by a raging pandemic that's killing roughly 800 Americans a day. Nearly 25 million Americans are on some form of unemployment. Millions more are struggling to pay for food, utilities, and rent. Protests have continued across the country over what seems like an unrelenting stream of police brutality against black and brown people. And with all of that, a wounded but unbroken country is looking for leadership and guidance. On one side, former Vice President Joe Biden has traversed the country, arguing that Donald Trump is unfit, unhinged, and a danger to American values, with no plans to put this country back together.
The days of divisiveness will soon be over.
Yes, a new world's coming.
We can build a more perfect union.
That belongs to you and me.
Let's get back up.
Yes, a new world's coming.
We can't believe again.
And on the other side, Trump is selling a cornucopia of incoherent thoughts strung together by a sense of personal grievance, authoritarianism, and misogyny.
Somebody said to me the other day, "You're the most famous person in the world by far." I said, "No, I'm not. No, I'm not." They said, "Yes, you are." I said, "No." They said, "Who's more famous?" I said, "Jesus Christ." They talked about the glass ceiling, right? The woman breaking the glass ceiling. And it didn't work out that way. The glass ceiling broke her, but there will be a woman that breaks the glass ceiling. It just won't be Hillary. I told our First Lady, "Darling, we're going to have the greatest publicity I've ever had tonight. I got nominated for the Nobel Prize."
And here is the president promoting the extrajudicial killing of an American citizen.
We sent in the U.S. Marshals. Took 15 minutes, it was over. 15 minutes, it was over. We got him. They knew who he was. They didn't want to arrest him. And 15 minutes, that ended.
You know, there's probably a reason why Trump can't string together a coherent message. According to the Washington Post, a trio of long-standing challenges have converged to create a daunting barrier to Trump's reelection. The inability to drag down Biden's favorability ratings, the lack of a clearly articulated second-term agenda, and a pandemic that continues to upend American life. 15 million Americans have already cast their ballots. 15 million. A new NBC News Wall Street Journal poll finds Biden leading Trump nationally by 11 points. And last night, the Biden campaign announced that it raised $383 million last month alone. Trump is also facing a slew of well-funded outside groups trying to take him down. Take, for example, the Lincoln Project, which raised a whopping $39.4 million over the past 3 months. In just a few moments, we'll have an exclusive look at one of their new ads. And joining me from the Lincoln Project are Senior Advisor Kurt Bardella and Executive Director Sarah Lento. I'm also joined by Jason Johnson, Professor of Journalism and Politics at Morgan State University. Thank you all for being here. This has been a very weird set of closing arguments that we've seen from these two campaigns, Jason. You know, Biden has got that Nina Simone, track and the come together message, and Trump is, basically using an argument that made conservatives hate the Beatles, saying he's more famous than Jesus. What do you make, just from a political science point of view, of their two closing arguments?
You know, one of the things, Joy, that I always looked at is message consistency. There's a direct correlation between message consistency and whether or not you win a campaign. If you don't have a message, if you don't have something coherent, the fact that we can still remember, yes, we can 8 years from now means that, hey, that was a coherent message, and that's what people remember. Compassionate conservatism from 25 years ago with George Bush, we still remember that message. Trump hasn't had a message. Some days his message is Biden is corrupt. Some days the message is Biden is terrible. Some days the message is I don't like Senator Harris. Some days the message is I'm more important than Jesus. Some day the message is I'm the miracle worker. I'm Superman. I can't get sick. He has no coherent message. You couldn't sell coffee or Girl Scout cookies with what he's doing right now. So unfortunately, it makes it very difficult for Republicans running under him to come up with a coherent message. And all Joe Biden has to do is say, hey, I'm the sane one who's going to bring the country back together. So this is arguably the most incompetent presidential campaign I have ever seen or studied in my life. But then again, he's not running a campaign because he's just trying to consolidate power and steal things by messing up the post office and suppressing the vote in Texas.
And let's just play another one of his messages, which is basically, it's really 2016, and Joe Biden is basically Hillary Clinton. Here's a little montage of that.
Hillary Clinton should not even be allowed to run. Biden is a corrupt politician who shouldn't even be allowed to run for the presidency. Hillary gets rich, making America poor. The Bidens got rich while America got robbed. Hillary Clinton owes all of you an apology. Vice President Biden, you owe the people of America an apology. It's like the Hillary stuff, the crooked Hillary, and it's the crooked Joe.
I'll note that people who knew Donald Trump from The Apprentice know he can just memorize a few lines. It's what he's actually good at, and he simply has done that again. Let me play that as a contrast, and welcome to the show, Sarah. And Sarah Lenti, I think I pronounced your name wrong, so I apologize for that. This is the new ad, and I appreciate you guys debuting it tonight on The ReidOut. And here is a part of you guys' new closing argument ad.
Imagine a young girl looking in the mirror, searching for role models in the world to give her hope that one day she too can make a difference. Now imagine how she feels when she watches women being verbally attacked.
What a stupid question that is. But I watch you a lot. You ask a lot of stupid questions.
Maligned.
This monster that was on stage with Mike Pence who destroyed her.
Belittled.
I'm not thinking, Mr.
That's
President.
okay. I know you're not thinking. You never do.
I'm sorry?
Insulted.
And I'd look her right in that fat, ugly face.
Your daughters are absorbing that message right in front of your eyes. Now imagine a different future for her. A future with a president who doesn't just value a female voice, but chooses one to be his right-hand woman. A strong woman with compassion, unafraid to take on a bully.
Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking.
Sarah, it's a really good ad. It's very moving. It goes on. There's about 30 seconds of it, but we have short time, so we couldn't play it all. But I recall at the close of the 2016 ad, Hillary Clinton's closing argument ad was very similar to that. It was, our children are watching, and she played a lot of little girls listening to Donald Trump insult women, including a part of the now infamous October 16 tape, the grab them by the tape. And that was their closing argument ad. Is this intentional, that this is sort of mirroring that? And if so, how do you think that that argument will ring differently 4 years later? It didn't in the end help Hillary Clinton.
So, Joy, thanks for having me, first of all. And I just want to say we know that women are very important in this election, and we want voters to look at the final days through the eyes and the lens of girls and women. And little girls are watching this election, too. I'll just say, as you see in the ad, the late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and you saw Secretary Rice, who was my first boss and still my political mentor. I mean, these are very important women. And Joy, in our lifetime, the only president who has treated women with such disdain and disrespect is Donald Trump. And it's not okay. We want voters to know it's not okay to talk to women like this. It's not okay to say that they don't think, to belittle them, to comment on their appearance. I'm a former Republican. I voted for Bush, but I'm voting for Biden this cycle. And for many of us in the Lincoln Project, this election is about character. When my sons, and again, they don't have a dad, but I want them to look at a leader as a president who embodies integrity, honesty, empathy, sincerity, diligence, morality. Donald Trump is none of those things. And we want to highlight that. We want to show Americans, remind Americans of who Donald Trump is, the example he's setting for our children, and juxtapose that with what a Biden-Harris administration would look like. And we don't know that we didn't intentionally do this to mirror what Hillary did in 2016, but we feel that this question of character and morality is important and will move voters.
And Kurt, thank you for being here. Among the women who are criticizing Donald Trump is the daughter of Rudy Giuliani, his bestest friend, to the extent that he has actual friends, has spoken out and said, I may not be able to change my father's mind, but together we can vote out this toxic administration. It's taken persistence and nerve to find my voice in politics. I'm using it now to ask you to stand with me in the fight to end Donald Trump's reign of terror. By the way, her brother, I believe, also works in the Trump administration. But it's not just women. Behind the scenes, some of the people you know very well, Ben Sass, that I'm sure both of you know, has come out. He did a private call with constituents. Publicly, he's a Trumper. Behind the scenes, he excoriated Trump, saying he had mishandled the coronavirus response, kisses dictators' butts, sells out our allies, spends like a drunken sailor, mistreats women, and trash talks evangelicals behind their backs. But publicly, he's still a coward. None of them will say that publicly. Girls will say it, right? Have we reached the point now where the men of the Republican Party need to just have the courage of Rudy Giuliani's daughter?
Yes.
I'll tell you, Joy, it is really something when you look at it right now that women are leading the way here, that women are leading the conversation, and also that people of color are also leading the conversation. And it's the white men that we're trying to get to see the light. And I think that when you talk about that Lincoln Project ad we just showed, I don't think anything is more persuasive to a father than seeing the world through his daughter's eyes and the world that daughter's going to have to live in and move forward in throughout life. And I think that's why it's such a compelling spot, because it's not just we want women to respond to this, it's that we want men, we want these father figures to see what the world really looks like when someone that powerful talks down to you, when someone that powerful says you can't do something, you're not good enough, you're not worthy enough, judges you based on ridiculous things. That's what we're trying to highlight here. And again, it tells you everything you need to know that women and people of color were there a long time ago, Joy, as you know, and as we've talked about many times. They got there a long time ago, and now we're just trying to get everyone else to catch up.
Well, I mean, we know we've had a Republican congressman, I can't remember which one it was, that called AOC the B word. So I'm not sure that people look at it that way, but we'll see what happens. Jason, for black men, what Donald Trump is doing is that, he's out there begging, suburban women, meaning white women, please, please, please vote for me, and saying, look, I kept the blacks away from you. What do you want from me? The end part of his, I got nominated for a Pulitzer, the next part of that was him to say, but they didn't talk about it because all they're talking about is your stupid farms getting flooded by storms. The storms are taking away my publicity, like 2 Iowa voters. So he's like insulting seniors and then saying, vote for me. Like, it all makes no sense. But with black men, he's doing something slightly different. We've now had Ice Cube get deleted from many, many playlists and disinvited from the barbecue for coming out and being like, I'm going to work with Trump. Yes. It's a weird last-minute play. It's complicated. Can you explain whether it's significant?
So, Joy, it's significant for 2 reasons. And one is the larger cultural context, and 2 is the campaign context. Donald Trump thinks black men are stupid. I'm telling you all, he thinks black guys are stupid. He thinks he can throw out rappers like Kanye and Ice Cube, and that's going to convince black men who are dying at a higher rate than almost anybody else in this country from COVID that somehow he cares about us. So as a campaign thing, it's insulting. But the second thing it shows is this, and we saw this not just with Ice Cube now, but we saw this with Jim Brown, and we've seen this with Steve Harvey, this idea that black celebrity men, some, seem to think that if they go and kiss the ring with Donald Trump, that something is going to get accomplished. And Cube, look, we've all joked, I've never had dinner with the president, arrest the president, we got the evidence. But I want to quote Cube and say, snitches get stitches. Because you know what happened? Ice Cube met with the Biden campaign and he met with the Trump campaign. Biden didn't talk about him having a meeting with Ice Cube, but Katrina Pearson and the Trump campaign did. They snitched. They put his name out there. And now he's got to do damage control for the last 24 hours before he looks like a sellout. And that's what Donald Trump does to black men. He will use them, take advantage of them, throw them out in the cold, and then when he gets in trouble, he's got nothing to say. And that's the lesson ultimately of what Ice Cube did. He has made the same mistake as a lot of people. You can't show up in the last 5 minutes and expect radical change from a white nationalist president.
And the minute that he is toxic, he will just suddenly remember that he made the song F the Police and be like, I don't know who Ice Cube is, never heard of him. I'm going to quote another person from the Lincoln Project, and that would be Rick Wilson. The hashtag is ETTD. Look it up. cube. Look it up, ETTD. Just keep that in mind. Thank you very much, Kurt Bardella, Sarah Linty. Nice to meet you. Jason Johnson, thank you very much. Up next on The ReidOut, as Trump